Hi, my name is the Reverend Deacon Stephen Pecco, and I'm with Trinity Episcopal Church in beautiful Apalachicola, Florida. And this is my sermon for Sunday, August 13th, 2023. This is the 11th Sunday after Pentecost. And what I'll be preaching on today is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 14, verses 22 through 33. When Jesus walks on the water. I've been trying to consider the specific interaction that occurs within this gospel message between Peter and Jesus in a different way than I ever have. The default interpretation that most of us have is that Peter tests Jesus. Jesus beckons Peter to come to him on the water. Peter sinks, and Jesus admonishes Peter's lack of faith. The reading has always left me with more questions and less resolution. I have wrestled with this text a lot over the years. What are we supposed to do with this most common interpretation, that to be reminded that most of us are too scared to even get out of the boat? To scoff at someone that's arrogant enough to test Jesus? To think maybe I could put myself in the line of fire, but to forgive someone that's wronged me, it really would be easier to walk on water. Thank you very much. But what if we look at this story afresh? Consider Peter's statement to Jesus. Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. You hear that? Peter directly tests Jesus, not unlike Satan tempting Jesus in the wilderness when he says, if you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread. This is Peter hedging his bets. It's like us saying, my head and my heart are at odds here, Jesus. I believe in you and I follow you with my whole heart, but my body is telling me a different story. With the wind, the waves battering, and thunder crashing all around me, and I can't make the leap by myself because I feel so unlikely. I need your help to bridge the gap between my head and my heart. I need your words spoken to me to push me over that edge from indecision to decision. And how does Jesus respond? With one word. Come. Notice Jesus doesn't say to Peter, I'll come to you. I'll meet you where you are. I will come to your indecision. Nope. Not at all. Not in this case. In this case, Jesus says, you come to me, because that will be the greatest testament of your faith, that you would cross over the chasm of impossibility and implausibility to get to what you know is real in your heart, to get to the heart of the matter. This, by the way, is what Jesus does for us in the resurrection. He crosses that chasm of death to make the impossible possible, to make the death of the self the life of God, the death of sin into the life of grace. So we might say, yeah, I'd get out of the boat. But, let's face it, the waves are battering. We can't hear ourselves think, with all the thunder crashing and the waves and the wind, the thunder. What happens if I sink? We would have too many provisos attached to our promissory note of discipleship. It's something like saying, I'll give more of my time, talent, and treasure to God when... I'll be more involved in these outreach programs if... I'll do it my way dot, dot, dot. But Jesus' commands to us, they don't have provisos and qualifiers attached to them. It isn't about doing it our way. It isn't about doing it if certain conditions are met, and it isn't about doing it when we feel the time is right. Because it has nothing to do with what we want or what we wish to control. It has nothing to do with our time. It has everything to do with Jesus' one word command to us. Come. And that's why I think Peter stepping out onto the water was less about his testing Jesus and more about being called. I think Peter would have stepped out of the boat regardless of Jesus' response. I think Peter would have stepped onto the water even if Jesus had told him yet another parable. I think Peter would have walked across the water even if Jesus had told him, "It ain't for me to decide, friend." Peter had already decided before he even uttered a word. This passage from Matthew has long been one of my favorite passages in all of the Bible. And it wasn't until this week that it really sunk in as to why that is. See, it's when Peter steps out of the boat and he's walking on water, mind you. And then he begins to sink and he cries out, "Lord, save me!" Peter doesn't yell for a rope from the boat. He doesn't beg from what his head knows to be safety, the disciples behind him that are watching all this transpire with their mouths agape. He yells to the one his heart's gaze has been fixed upon all this time, the same person in the seemingly same impossible situation as him. He yells out to Jesus, and Jesus is there to catch him. But here's the critical part for me. Jesus looks him dead in the eye and says, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" To me, that statement right there is the purest definition of grace in all of the Bible. See, when we sin, when we fall behind, when we try to follow, and when we fail, when we break God's commandments, when we let down those who love us, those who depend upon us, or when we let ourselves down, Jesus is right there to remind us that we never need to doubt the love and faith he has in us. But we reside in a space between doubt and faith. Rarely are we at one extreme or the other. Rarely do we say, there is no possibility of success here. Just like we wouldn't be caught dead saying, there's no way this can fail. You see, we're walking on water and sinking into it at the same time. We trust in God, yet we might fear that God cannot save the world. But think about this statement again. You of little faith, why did you doubt? At first blush, it sounds like Jesus is admonishing Peter. And most scholars will liken that word little from the original Greek, oligopistos, as meaning something like lacking confidence. But peer deeper into this statement, and you might see something you hadn't before. Consider, what if Peter's faith is not a half-baked, doughy portion of fully cooked faith, but rather a scale version of a tempered faith? What if Jesus is saying that Peter's faith is like that of the mustard seed, that it is little right now, but it has everything it needs and can grow into a mighty fortress with impacts far beyond its branches, given the right conditions. And besides, what's wrong with little? One person little in age defeated Goliath. One woman little in stature birthed one little baby that defeated sin for all of us. One little act of pushing a 17-year-old girl out of the line of a shotgun's range helped change the trajectory of civil rights. One man refusing to move out of the way of a line of tanks in Tiananmen Square ignited the world's passions for democracy. One little word, come, change the world.